Drew's laugh echoed through the wooden cabin, a sound so familiar it lived somewhere deep in Eli's chest. The others had gone to bed long ago, leaving just the two of them sitting by the fireplace, legs tangled in old blankets, beers half drunk and forgotten. Drew leaned back, his flannel shirt slightly unbuttoned, exposing a collarbone Eli had once traced with his eyes and sworn never to want more than friendship. But that was before. I can't believe Tessa thinks I'm going to survive this trip without Wi-Fi, Drew muttered, tapping a dead phone. Eli smiled, though his chest ached. Maybe she just wants you to focus on people in front of you for once. Drew looked at him then, really looked. For a moment, it was like they were 16 again, hiding out in Eli's room from the world. No girlfriends, no expectations, no wrong touches. Just them. She says I talk about you too much, Drew said, and his tone was somewhere between amusement and apology. Jealous, I guess. Eli looked away, grateful for the flickering fire that masked the heat in his cheeks. She's not wrong. About what? You do talk about me too much. Drew grinned and nudged him. That's because you're the only one who gets me. That word only lodged in Eli's ribs like a splinter. They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling low. Outside, the wind picked up, and Eli could hear branches brushing against the windows like fingers too polite to knock. I miss this, Drew said suddenly. Us, when things were easy. Eli nodded. He missed it too, though the ache now was different, sharper, because things weren't easy anymore. Drew had Tessa, and Eli had all the words he would never say. The silence deepened, stretched, but never broke. Drew leaned his head back and exhaled. I should probably crash. This floor's gonna mess up my back. You can take the bed, Eli offered, immediately regretting it. Drew raised an eyebrow. Not letting me sleep alone? There's room for two. Like the old days? Drew asked, voice teasing, but laced with something else. Something Eli didn't dare name. Yeah, Eli said quietly, like the old days. They made their way into the tiny bedroom, shadows shifting around them. Eli changed in the dark, back turned, heart pounding. He could feel Drew behind him, always there, always close, always just out of reach. They lay side by side, not touching. The bed was too small for the distance Eli wanted to keep, and too big for the kind he craved. I'm glad you came, Drew murmured into the silence. Tessa wanted me to bring her instead, but I needed this. Eli stared at the ceiling. Needed what? This. You. Just you. His voice was raw, frayed around the edges. Eli turned his head, searching Drew's face in the dim light. It was unreadable. He was always unreadable when it mattered most. You're tired, Eli whispered. Drew didn't answer. His breath evened out, slow and heavy, but Eli knew him too well. Knew when his silence was sleep and when it was something else. Eli closed. His eyes willed his heart to calm, willed his body to forget that it was next to the only person who'd ever made it feel fully alive. He tried to drift, tried to let the quiet take him. But then he felt it. The shift of weight on the mattress, the way Drew's breathing caught, the whisper of a sigh that sounded too much like a confession. Drew moved closer. Not touching. Not yet. Just near enough. Eli kept still, let the moment hang between them like a question neither had dared ask. His eyes remained shut. His heart did not. And as the fire in the next room died to embers, Eli felt something else ignite. Something that had lived too long in silence, now dangerously close to speaking without words. He wasn't asleep, but Drew didn't know that. Drew's breath was close now, closer than it had any right to be. Eli lay still, frozen beneath, the weight of his own heartbeat, every nerve alert. The air between them was a living thing, thick with something unnamed, electric. He didn't move, didn't dare. If he twitched, if he shifted, the moment might shatter like glass. Then it happened. Fingers brushed his back. Soft. Barely there. A hesitation made flesh. Drew's hand lingered, and Eli's skin ignited beneath it. He bit the inside of his cheek to keep from gasping. He was supposed to be asleep. That was the story. That was the lie they would both have to live inside. The touch returned, this time slower. Tracing, almost reverent. Drew's fingertips danced along the curve of Eli's spine, writing an apology in a language neither of them had ever spoken. Aloud. Eli wanted to turn, to meet his gaze, to say his name, but something held him down. Not fear, exactly. Not guilt. Something more fragile. Hope. He'd spent years crafting boundaries. Years learning how to laugh at Drew's jokes without looking too long. Years learning how to lock feelings away. Now Drew was slipping past all those careful defenses with the gentleness of someone who knew exactly where to aim. The bed shifted. Drew leaned in. His chest, warm and bare, met Eli's back, breath falling softly against the nape of his neck. Still no words, still no confirmation. Just silence, skin, breath, heat. Eli's eyes stung, and he didn't know if it was from restraint or release. He let it happen, because this was the part of the story he'd never believed he'd get. Not even in dreams. And if it was a mistake, if it was only for one night, he would still take it. Just to know. Just once. Drew's hand slipped around Eli's waist, slow, like he was afraid of waking him. The irony was cruel. Eli had never felt more awake in his life. He exhaled softly, enough to mimic sleep, but not enough to betray how his entire world was unraveling. The touch deepened. Skin against skin, palm pressing gently against his stomach. Eli's muscles tensed, then released, surrendering inch by inch to the closeness. Drew's nose brushed his shoulder, a whisper of presence. Then lips. Just once. A kiss, hesitant and incomplete, but real. Eli's breath caught. Drew paused, his body stiffening slightly, as if waiting for a reaction. None came. Eli held still, though every cell screamed. He wanted to turn, to face him, to make it mutual. But Drew had started this as a secret. Eli couldn't be the one to name it. Moments passed like years. Drew's hand moved up, fingers grazing ribs, chest, until it rested flat against Eli's heart. He could feel it racing. He had to. Yet, he said nothing. Then he whispered so quietly it could have been a thought. I shouldn't. But he didn't stop. Eli's throat ached from the weight of all the things he couldn't say. I'm here. I've always been here. You don't have to pretend. But Drew would pretend. He was pretending already. The contact grew deeper, needier. Bodies finding rhythm. Heat building. Not clumsy, not unsure. Like something they'd imagined in different rooms for years, now finding its first trembling voice. Drew kissed his neck again. This time longer. This time Eli nearly trembled. Still, no name. No words of love. Only breath. Only motion. Only this. It was beautiful. And it was cruel. When it was over, Drew stayed still. His arms still draped. Over Eli, their bodies stuck in a pause neither of them knew how to break. Then slowly, almost reluctantly, Drew pulled away, rolled back, turned to face the ceiling. The distance between them felt colder than the room. Eli didn't turn, didn't speak. He couldn't. His body hummed with everything unsaid. Drew exhaled sharply, almost angrily, and whispered, "This didn't mean anything. Right?" Eli stared into the darkness, the words slicing through him like ice. So that's what it was. Not a confession, not a beginning, a mistake. His throat tightened, but still, he stayed silent. Drew needed him to be asleep. Needed this. Not to count. And Eli, stupid, loyal Eli, gave him that. No answer, no protest, just silence. He heard Drew shift again, further this time, the space between them growing wider with every breath. Outside, the wind howled against the windows. Inside, Eli felt something break. He hadn't moved, but nothing about him would ever be the same again. Morning came like a betrayal. Harsh light spilled through the cabin windows, slicing across the rumpled bed where Eli lay motionless, eyes wide open. He hadn't slept. Not really. Not after what happened, what they didn't talk about, didn't name, didn't explain. The other side of the bed was empty. Still warm, but empty. From the kitchen, he heard the faint clang of a coffee mug. Drew's voice followed, normal, casual, like any other day. Like nothing had happened. Like Eli hadn't given him everything in the quiet of the night while pretending to sleep. He sat up slowly, body sore, not from touch but from tension, from holding everything inside. Eli stepped into the narrow hallway. Drew stood at the counter, back turned, pouring coffee. He wore the same shirt from last night, now slightly wrinkled. The same scent clung to him, cedar, campfire, and something unspoken. "Morning," Drew said over his shoulder, cheerful, too cheerful. Eli didn't answer. Drew turned, coffee in hand, and raised it in greeting like nothing had shifted. But something had. Everything had. "I made extra," he offered, voice light, breezy. "Thought you'd be up by now." Eli stared at him, studied his face, the same dimples, the same half grin, the same eyes that, just hours ago, had closed in pleasure against Eli's skin. "You sleep okay?" Drew asked, taking a sip. Eli's voice felt like stone in his throat. "You don't have to pretend." Drew blinked. "Pretend what?" That last night didn't happen. A pause. Drew set the mug down, too hard, the clink sharp in the quiet room. "I was drunk," he said quickly, too quickly. "Tired. I wasn't thinking straight." "You weren't drunk," Eli replied, calm but cold. "You knew exactly what you were doing." Drew's jaw tightened. It was a mistake. A moment. It didn't mean anything. "You said..." "That last night," Eli murmured, "and I still haven't answered." Silence. Not just between them, inside them. Something raw began unraveling in Drew's expression. Guilt, panic, denial. He looked away. "You're with Tessa," Eli said. "She loves you. She trusts you. And I..." "You don't get to judge me," Drew snapped. "You let it happen." "I was awake, Drew." The words landed like a blow. Drew looked up sharply, face pale. He opened his mouth, then closed, it again as if choking on all the justifications that suddenly sounded hollow. "I know," he said finally, voice breaking. "I knew." "Then why?" Eli asked. "Why do something you couldn't even own in the daylight?" Drew ran a hand through his hair, breathing hard. "I don't know. I needed something real. And you've always felt real. But this can't happen again." Eli nodded slowly. It wasn't rage that filled him. It was clarity. Cold, precise, final. "Don't worry," he said. "It won't." Drew's face crumpled a little like he hadn't expected it to hurt. But Eli didn't care, not anymore. He walked past him into the bedroom and began packing in silence. "You're leaving early?" Drew asked, almost pleading. "I shouldn't have come." He zipped the bag closed and stood there for a moment, breathing in the stillness one last time. He didn't look back. By the time he reached his car, the morning had turned crisp and unforgiving. He started the engine but didn't drive. Instead, he sat still, pulling out his phone. There was an old voice memo saved in his favorites, sent by Drew a year ago after a rough night out. Eli played it, Drew's voice tipsy and laughing. "You'll always be the one person who sees me, man, even when I don't see myself. Don't let me lose that." Eli closed his eyes. "I already did," he whispered. Then he drove away, leaving behind the echo of everything they never dared to speak.